for Next Best Picture. Monica, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing so good. Your performance as Joan Baez is remarkable, truly stunning. I loved the movie and what you were doing in it so much. So
Thank
I
you.
appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time.
Earlier this week, we just saw that Bob himself gave Timothy a shout out and wished the film well. I was curious if you've heard from Joan at all throughout this process.
Elle and I were texting about that moment. We were like, "Is that really Bob? Do you think that's Bob?" That was really wonderful. I had the good fortune of getting to speak with Joan. I kind of sought her out. I hesitated for a while. I wasn't sure if it would necessarily be the best thing or the most sort of informative thing for the portraying her, because I admired her so much, and at that point, and still she was on such a pedestal for me. But I kept having dreams about her and about meeting her. And we always had a really good time. So I think my subconscious was trying to tell me that, like, it would be okay. And Joan was just a bold person with people. And I felt like if it were her, she would reach out. And also Ed knew her and talked to her. So yeah, we did speak on the phone. And then now it's just about, I don't have any expectation or hopes or dreams of her seeing the film. I think she's just like, she's in her own world, and she doesn't live or die by what we say about her in this movie. And I really respect that. At one point on the phone, I said something to that effect of her, like, trying to honor you, you deserve your own biopic, but we only have so much time. And she was like, "I'm just in my backyard, listening and watching the birds." And I was like, "Yeah, you're Joan. Like, you don't need this. She has so much of her own legacy and her own life and family, and yeah, like I said, doesn't live or die by what we say about her in this film."
I mean, she, like you said, she has this incredible legacy because of
Yeah.
her incredible music, and
And her
lesser,
activism too. Yeah.
absolutely, and lesser films would have just dubbed you all over with Joan and Bob's real voices. What were those early conversations like about you singing live as Joan? When did you know that that's what you were signing up for?
Well, it was a part of the audition. Um, and yeah, I mean, I had a meeting with Jim, and before I had booked the role, and he told me that that's how we were doing it. It was never a surprise to me, but it was daunting, and a huge undertaking. And I, as soon as I was cast, I just took it upon myself to start singing. I restrung a guitar that wasn't even mine and started practicing, and then, got linked up with an excellent vocal coach and a couple of guitar coaches, just sort of dove right in.
Yeah, I've heard you describe playing the guitar and singing on set as sort of an anchor for you. How
Yeah.
did developing those skills help you sort of sink your teeth into this performance?
I think sometimes acting can feel like a sort of ethereal, like mystical process, and at least with some of those skills, it felt like there was an anchor. It felt like there was something I knew that I had to learn to do, and the closer it sounded to the real thing, the more I was on the right track. And so that was nice to have that to focus a lot of my energy on. I mean, of course, there was also like diving into memoirs and really just trying to deeply understand, Joan as she saw herself, and also how other people, saw her, and where those things are at odds, where those things align. But it was nice to have the music to sort of, I wouldn't say fall back on, because it was also a very steep hill to climb. But it felt like a tie to her, and also to the other actors who were, musicians, who were portraying musicians in the film. I remember meeting Boyd, and we just started talking about like the different aspects of guitar playing that are really specific to Joan and Johnny. I was like, what's Johnny's thing? Like, does he have a specific strumming technique? And he was like, yeah, he's actually like, this is like the Johnny thing. And so that was just really cool too. I think it felt for all of us like kind of the most interesting thing to talk about and kind of ruminate about.
And as powerful as those musical performances are, the chemistry between you and Timothy, Joan and Bob are so drawn to each other, even when they hate each other. And I think the way you captured that is really wonderful. How did you and Timothy work together to sort of build that connection between the two of you?
I mean, I was such an admirer of Timmy's work before this. I and what we both wanted was to not meet until we were musically proficient, because that's sort of where Joan and Bob meet, or how they met in real life. I just respected him so much. I knew that he would show up with a really deep understanding of who Bob was. At no point did I have any doubt about that. And I heard some of his recordings as well, so I knew like vocally he was really accomplishing something magnificent. And so it kind of was just a process of the two of us diving in and really deeply understanding our own characters, and then meeting and addressing the scene presently, and just sort of like acknowledging what Timothy was showing up with that day as Bob, and receiving it through the filter that I had sort of designed or come to understand about Joan, and just playing things out and playing choices yeah, it wasn't like the kind of thing where you go off and you have a coffee together and you talk about your like families and houses or what, like it was about, we showed up with our research done and then had our two individual interpretations of our characters meet. And a wonderful thing about Jim, he's such an intelligent director. And he had us shoot scenes where we were in sort of contentious relationship, or where we had a contentious relationship like earlier in the process. That's a little easier to shoot when you're less familiar with someone. And then our final scene that we shot together, and my final scene that I shot in the movie, was our scene in Bob's apartment, singing Blowin' in the Wind for the first time. And so we were able to kind of naturally build a level of intimacy that that scene needed. But again, without really diving in beyond those characters, we just showed up as Bob and Joan.
Hmm. And the result is incredible. What I love most about A Complete Unknown is the way that it showcases all the expectations that are placed on artists and how audiences try to define an artist.
Yeah.
When you're playing a role like Joan Baez, there are so many expectations that are placed on your shoulders. How did you find the balance between embracing the responsibility of the role, but also making it your own?
I think making it my own was never really a part of my process with this. It wasn't that I was mimicking her. The process sometimes involves, I think, some mimicry and you try all kinds of things to sort of get there. But I think more than anything, once we were there filming, it was just sort of the release of expectation to get her exactly. And there was a beautiful interview that she did, I think it was the New Yorker, and she was talking about her illustrations in a book that had recently come out. This was before we were filming, but while I was working on the role. And she said, I need to get the exact quote, but she said something to the effect of, trying to achieve perfection is the enemy of creativity. It robs the art of its life, and it just makes it really boring. And so I sort of took that on and used that to assist me in just like letting go of my idea of a perfect version of Joan, or getting her perfectly. Because she's such an interesting person, the last thing I would want on earth would be for her to like fall flat or seem boring in this film. So just like really studying her so closely, but then also just sort of letting it go and embracing what was happening in the moment and letting that come through. Yeah.
Well, the result is incredible. Again, I love the film so much. Monica, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.